Welcome to Dead Reckoning Radio. I'm your host, Jay Friesen, with Dr. Brian Mattson.
That puts a smile on my face every time we play it, Jay.
You say that every time we go on the air.
I know, because I just love it.
Not technically on the air. We're actually recording this right now.
Yeah.
We're going to put the Spindle segment up on YouTube. Just us in the studio ranting.
Doing the
under,
Spindle.
Our Dead Reckoning TV.
Yeah.
We've got some big announcements coming for you regarding that, but that's not going to be for another month or so.
Yeah. Need to know basis.
So we got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about choices. Women's choices. And not the kind of choice you're thinking.
Yeah, she's pro-choice, but not that kind of pro-choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about death metal and biblical prophets.
I like death metal.
I really, really can't listen to it, but we're going to get a very, very unique theological insight into death metal from our friend Derek in Orange County, California.
I had a funny joke that I was going to mention about that, but I decided I forgot what it was.
I guess it wasn't that funny.
That's
then,
what happened.
Jay.
So, good show lined up. Check the rest of the states. Whatever. I don't really care. Anyway, before the Spindle, Brian, we do have another special announcement to make.
Uh-oh, what's that?
It's your birthday.
It is my birthday. Hey, are you going to wish me happy birthday or just announce it? Come on, man.
I'll pour you a scotch here later.
Fantastic.
Happy birthday, Brian.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate that.
How old are you?
37.
You feel older?
I do. I'm starting to feel old. My body's breaking down on me. So it's a long downhill slide from here, I think.
Nice.
I think I need to start working out.
Nice. Well, I see you
Try
have
to
another cold.
prolong things. I have another cold. You know, I got double whammied. I had one 2 weeks ago, and then
I know
got
you
better.
did. We postponed recording and filming.
I know, and then I just got smacked again with it. So a little nasally. You can just edit out all of my sniffing and hawking and
hawking,
whatever.
Yeah. All right.
But how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Actually, it's Friday.
We like
this
Fridays.
is the second time we recorded this segment because we didn't like yesterday's recording.
That's right.
It's the beauty of pre-recording.
We love it.
So we got the open house happy hour at our place. If you lived in Billings and you were friends with me on Facebook, you could come. But that'd be awesome. And other than that, Spindle, what do you got? I only got 2 items.
Well,
so should I start?
Yeah,
or should you start?
Why don't you go ahead and...
All right.
That's funny. You gave me a hard time last week about only having 2 Spindle items, and now
you had a reason for
this
that.
is on the other... Yeah.
Somebody reported that
Choosing the
the
other
reports should not be reported or something like that.
That's right.
Okay, so my first Spindle item is, of course, the news. I was sitting with my business partner for some of my finance stuff down at Jake's down here around the corner for lunch, and we flip on, and all this TVs are on ESPN. So as you can imagine,
you saw lots of sports highlights.
Nothing. Saw nothing. No sports highlights. No top 10 reels. Nobody pontificating about how somebody faked a knee injury in soccer. Nothing.
Probably not even any news about Tim Tebow getting cut. Tell us, what was it about? What was it about?
No. It was about Josh Collins. Jason Collins,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about him all day.
Yeah.
Jason Collins comes out and says, I'm gay.
It warranted a presidential phone call,
afternoon,
a first lady tweet, and let me guess, wall-to-wall coverage on ESPN.
You know, I get the climate right now that it's like the hip, uber cool thing to do to be gay.
But by the way, that makes it not brave and courageous.
Right. Now, pause for a second, though, because everybody's clamoring about saying, you know, what we need to do is we need to have, this needs to be normal. This needs to be the good. This needs to be accepted everywhere as the standard.
Yep, normal.
Great. Treating one guy coming out in sports like a superstar celebrity is not normal.
No, they're kind of making it not normal.
They're making it not normal by their very actions.
He's lionized as this great hero.
My other thought. Who cares?
I know.
I could care less if you're gay or you like to sleep with animals or whatever. Can you play good basketball?
Here's the thing.
Can you play good basketball?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I cannot off the top of my head, and I suppose I haven't thought about it that long, I can't think of the last time a civilization, stop the presses. We need to lionize this great hero who told us who he likes to sleep with. Really? Really? I mean, there's something weird and decadent about that. But does it matter? But you bring up the point that this has nothing to do with what people do behind closed doors. what Jason Collins decides to do behind closed doors. This has everything to do with what you or I will be allowed to say about what Jason Collins
You're going to
does
bring up Chris Broussard
in
now,
public.
aren't you?
Of course I'm bringing up Chris Broussard, because Chris Broussard, you want to talk about bravery, courage, a guy that needs to be lionized. Chris Broussard, if our audience is unaware of it, is a highly respected ESPN analyst, NBA basketball analyst.
ESPN the magazine.
He's
everything.
He's a big wig, right? So he's on ESPN's show Outside the Lines, which is a show that's designed as a deep conversation show. Let's air our differences. Let's argue it out. That's the design of the show. So they have Chris Broussard on, and they asked Chris Broussard, what do you make of the fact that Jason Collins is a practicing homosexual, but he claims to be a Christian? And Chris Broussard, and people can go, in fact, we'll link it on the show notes. You can go watch Chris Broussard's answer. It is the most respectful, humble, and yet uncompromising answer. And he said, listen, anybody living in any kind of unrepentant sexual sin, whether it's homosexuality, any kind of sex outside of marriage, cohabitation, whatever it is, if you're living in unrepentant sin, that is rebellion against God. It is sin, and it certainly calls into question your claims to be a Christian. That's what he said. He said, and that's my opinion. And he says, I've shared that with Jason Collins. We understand each other. And now Broussard, there's calls for Broussard to get fired, of course. You know that ESPN immediately after that came out with an apology. They had to apologize. Now, wait a minute. You asked the guy his opinion on a talk show.
You did.
He gave it to you.
Legit.
And now you're like, oh, we need to apologize for his opinion. That's where we're heading. It has everything to do with what you're allowed to say about it.
Just play some basketball.
Seriously.
Well,
that's part of my thing, too. Is this guy Rosa Parks? Was somebody making him sit in the back of the bus? I'm sorry.
No, he's the first one, and it's
he
the
played,
first.
He played.
That doesn't. We'll move on here in a second, but that doesn't negate the fact there's probably other homosexual athletes. They exist. They're there.
My point is, he hasn't suffered a bit. He's played NBA basketball for 13 years. Nobody paid him less. Nobody refused to give him a job because of his sexual orientation. I don't understand
All right, enough of this silliness. Here. Let's get on with some real news.
Oh, let's get on with some real news. There's a story floating around on Facebook a lot that the U.S. military, the Pentagon, is now threatening a courts-martial for Christians who share their faith with other soldiers. And people are very understandably
naturally
concerned about this. A little bit of an update on that story so that people can, be accurate is that the Pentagon is actually denying this. And they are pointing to their regulations, which makes a distinction between proselytizing and sharing and evangelizing. And those are very, very fuzzy boundaries. What's the difference between sharing with somebody, evangelizing somebody, or proselytizing? Well, basically, proselytizing, and according to the military handbook, is undue harassment of somebody. Continual unwanted advance and harassment. Which, in my case, if that's true, then what they're saying is you can get court-martialed for being a jerk. Okay, I don't really have a problem with that. You get court-martialed for being a jerk. All right? If you share your faith with somebody and they say, get lost, I never want to hear about that again. Okay, get lost. All right.
Okay, now I have something to add to that because I have a friend down in Texas who is very involved in the chaplaincy program.
Yes.
With the PCA's denomination.
Right.
PCA. I am going to say that we need to just get rid of the chaplains.
I would disagree with you. But
here's what's already happening.
Okay.
They already can't evangelize or share their faith. It's just not, you just don't do that. But you're there to kind of minister to the people in your own sort of belief system. Like, the Baptists can work with the Baptists and the Presbyterians.
Yeah, there's some of that goes on.
Their hands are already so tied. You might as well just get rid of them and stop wasting taxpayer money.
There's some of the, well, it would be a mistake. I'm going to flat out disagree with you because this is a cool show when we disagree with you. I'm going to flat out disagree with you. You can't have Christians abandoning an institution like the U.S. military. I understand that their hands are being tied in many ways, and we need to work on that. Leads me to my next Spindle item, by the way.
I'm going to get a chaplain on the show. We can talk about this with an
That would be
active military
fantastic.
chaplain. That'd be great.
Let's do it. Well,
and then we get censored by the U.S. government.
there is cause for concern because I'm gonna read some portions of an article that came out on the Huffington Post recently by a guy by the name of Mikey Weinstein. Now, Mikey Weinstein is the worst writer on planet Earth, and so you're going to have to bear with me. I'm serious. This stuff is so bad. I mean, this is his opening sentence, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you of monsters and monstrous wrongs, and let me tell you what these bloody monsters thrive on. Okay. Kind of guy's a little agitated, right? So, by the end of the article, I'll give you a few more descriptions of the people that he's attacking here. He calls them monsters of human degradation, marginalization, humiliation, and tyranny. They crave for your universal silence in the face of their rapacious reign of theocratic terror. They ceaselessly lust, ache, and pine. Lust would have worked. Lust, ache, and pine for you to do absolutely nothing to thwart their oppression. They are monstrously savage. Do not feed these hideous monsters. Do not lubricate the path of... lubricate the path of their racism, bigotry, and prejudice. He's talking about Nazi guards, right? SS?
Neo-Nazi Germany.
Talking about the KGB. He's talking about Stalin's Red Army.
No. I think he's talking about... Let me... Now, we did record this yesterday, so I know what he's talking about now, but I'm going to give the same answer.
Go ahead.
That I gave yesterday, and I didn't know who you were talking about.
Right.
The conservative right.
He's talking about evangelical Christians. Those people that go around saying,
monsters.
love your neighbor, do good to those who persecute you, turn the other cheek, love and care for those who are poor and disadvantaged. Monsters doing monstrous things. Why do I bring that up? I mean, this is a Huffington Post article that's horribly written. It is absolutely hysterical. The man is unhinged. This is why. Mikey Weinstein, the author of this article that calls Christians absolute monsters in every, invective name in the book, Mikey Weinstein is a Obama appointed a Pentagon advisor for military issues relating to religious tolerance. I'm
going to play an Alanis Morissette song right now.
Yeah, that would be cool. Crank it up.
Not really.
No, look, that's cause for concern.
The irony is just...
Yeah, the irony is incredible. This guy is incredibly bigoted, obviously, and he's unhinged. But he's now advising the Pentagon on issues of religious liberty and religious tolerance in the military, which is cause for concern, I believe, for our chaplains and for Christians in the military.
I would like to see chaplains in the military because, there is something to be said for giving somebody hope outside of themselves.
Listen, if you have a military, I mean, men who are trained to break things and kill people,
blow things up,
and break things, to have them not have any source or avenue for moral formation is a disaster waiting to happen. All right? You want more Abu Ghraibs? You want more atrocities? Let's just remove and suck all moral counsel out of the military. What a disaster. But here's my point. I think that there is becoming more and more an intolerance of Christians. I mean, Mikey Weinstein, ESPN, apologizing for the perfectly orthodox and evangelical opinions of Chris Broussard. This stuff is becoming more and more common.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Which brings up my last Spindle item. I only have 2 today. Okay. And I feel kind of naked without my tablet.
You forgot your tablet today?
I'm playing with these coasters because I don't have anything to fiddle with.
That's ridiculous.
Yesterday afternoon, a man walked into Terminal B at Houston Airport.
That's correct, yeah.
Fired 2 or 3 shots with an AR-15 up into the air, then pulled a pistol and shot himself in the head.
Wow.
That is considered a shooting.
When you kill yourself, it's considered a shooting?
I think it's about as much of a shooting as me going up to the gun range and plinking some targets.
Well, and then plinking yourself.
True.
Yeah, I mean, somebody did get shot by his own hand. But he didn't shoot it. It's interesting. I'd read a story that an air marshal had taken some shots at him, and it was at that point that he shot himself. So I don't know if he intended to kill people. I don't know. I mean, he had an AR-15. What's he doing with that? I don't.
How did he get from his car in the parking lot into the terminal?
I'll tell you why. I can tell you why. The cops and security officers who stand outside the doors at airports are more concerned about you parking your vehicle there than who's walking in the door.
Oh, that's truth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you actually get out of the driver's side car and they're yelling at you and blowing whistles and telling you got to move. Meanwhile, the guy walks past them with an AR-15. I mean, seriously. Hello, priorities, people.
I asked a local cop one time. I said, so we have an open carry. You know, Montana has open carry law,
right?
Which means you can carry in the open.
Don't conceal it. Just stick it on your head. Stick it on your head.
Within the county and the state, you can do whatever you want for the most part. But within the city, there's guidelines, and one of those is you can open carry without a permit. And so I asked my cop, my Billings
PD friend.
I was like, hey man, so if I was walking down the street with my, I've got one of those big HK USPs, 45s.
Yeah.
My big HK strapped to my side and holstered, and tactical holster and all that. I was like, what would you do? And I was legitimately curious because I have some really pro gun friends who are like, we need to just have open carry day, blah, blah. And I'm like, that'll make people nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll make us feel
just
really
carry
good.
it concealed, and then they won't know, and they won't get nervous.
Here's what he said. He said, we don't consider it normal behavior, which is
actually kind of true. It isn't
kind of
normal
true.
behavior.
It's not normal behavior. Yeah. He said it's not normal. So we'd probably ask you. Most people who do that are private citizens have a legitimate reason for, but we would likely stop you and ask you. But always best practice. Just go concealed, and what people don't know, they never heard of.
There you go.
So
right.
it was
get a concealed carry permit.
It was just kind of like interesting. That you can walk. I mean, an AR-15 will attract. That will
definitely attract attention.
Unless you're in a third world country, everybody's
got an AK-47.
Everybody's got an AK-47, AR-15.
In Mexico, they're supplied.
Shotgun,
in Mexico,
and
they're
all private security.
They're supplied by the U.S. government in Mexico.
Let's ask your ATF brother-in-law about that one.
That's right.
All right, what's your last item?
Okay, here's some. I got some. You're into silly Spindle items, and you just like
I love
funny kind of. This is actually kind of morbid and not really that funny, but. You know the Darwin Awards?
Yep.
Like on the internet, they have these whole awards for the people that removed themselves from the gene pool out of their sheer stupidity.
Like the guy that threw himself into a cactus.
Yeah. Did you see that YouTube video? I showed you that. What would possess somebody to take his shirt off and jump into a giant cactus? It was bizarre. Anyway, here a stuntman in India died doing a stunt. He stretched a zip line across the Teesta River and started working his way across. The interesting thing about this stuntman is that he pulls an Absalom, David's son who was riding on his horse and he got caught in the tree by his hair.
His long, beautiful, flowing Fabio hair.
He had Fabio hair. Well, this guy apparently has Fabio hair too, and he has a big ponytail.
Andre Agassi hair.
Isn't he bald?
John Travolta hair it wasn't that long.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this guy has a huge ponytail.
No, Andre Agassi used to have really long, beautiful hair with the headband. All the girls loved him.
That's right. I remember now. I remember. And then he shaved his head. Anyway, this guy attaches himself to the zip line by his ponytail. Just his hair holds him. And then he works his way across the river just by his hair. I mean, can you imagine that? That is unbelievable. Well, he got about 30 yards out during this latest stunt. Of course, this is all, no permits, no emergency medical personnel.
Well, it's what did you say, India?
It's India. No, he just does it, right? So he gets about 30 yards out. He's got this huge crowd of people watching him. He gets about 30 yards out, suffers a massive heart attack, and dies.
So the point is, it had nothing to do with his hair.
It's just, it's actually morbid. The poor guy's just dangling there. And after about a half an hour, people are like, he's not moving, He was
hanging there for like a half an hour?
The guy was just hanging there.
Oh, my word.
So somebody had to go out and retrieve him. I mean, it's absolutely horrible.
Oh.
But yeah, that's definitely kind of worthy of a Darwin Award, I'd have to say.
That's hilarious.
So yeah,
it's sad that he died, but that's still really funny. But I'm kind of a sick, twisted person.
That's it's a weird stunt, you got to admit.